Corley Moore, coming at you to let you know about the Vigilantes. Of course, everybody, I mean, if you watch the scrap, if you listen to the scrap at all, you know about the Vigilantes. But I want to be very clear and let everybody know we are moving to Patreon. The Vigilantes are moving to Patreon. There's been so many people who said, hey, I don't do Facebook. I can't be a part of the Vigilantes. I'm not on Facebook. And I get it. We get it. So now we are moving to Patreon. It is independent of any of the social media platforms. It is its own thing. You can join us on Patreon. So what does that mean if you're already a Vigilante? Man, go join Patreon. We will stop your payment. We will refund. If you are on an annual subscription, we will refund what has remained. We will make it happen. We are going to take care of you and get you in there. It's already a beautiful platform. So much going on in there. These are the things. If you're not a Vigilante, I'm just asking you, why not? Go to the Patreon. It is patreon.com/thevigilantes. And you get access to the Vigilante only swag shop, the Fire Away live Q&As, behind the scenes of the scrap. You influence the scrap on where it's going to go. Member only, exclusive live videos, complete access to all the past archives, all the past forums, all the past Q&As, the 15% off Vigilante code for the firehousevigilance.com store, access to the after party, man. I mean, that's every scrap, the after party. It's unbelievable. And of course, the VIP forums where we talk to some of the best in the business one-on-one in a giant meeting where everybody has a voice. It's exciting. So if you're not a Vigilante, go be one. If you are a Vigilante, go sign up at patreon.com so that you can get it transferred over. It's going to be a fun transfer, but we're making it happen. It's already been amazing today. I think over 100 people today have already signed up, and we just announced it this morning. So go be a part. Vigilantes, patreon.com/thevigilantes, or go to firehousevigilance.com and you can click the button there. Very, very easy. Be a part. Be one of the cool kids. Why not? Make it happen. Love you all. See ya.
Introducing the Affordable Standpipe Prop, another innovative solution by Affordable Drill Towers. The Affordable Standpipe Prop is a realistic training prop that allows you to conduct real-world training in your classroom and flow water in your parking lot. Crafted with efficiency and affordability in mind, the Affordable Standpipe Prop is designed to meet the needs of engine company training. We took the fire suppression system of a 7-story building, compressed it into 4.5 feet, and mounted it horizontally on our proprietary cart. For durability, the manifold is constructed of 4-inch Schedule 40 galvanized pipe with 7 2.5-inch outlets. Enjoy effortless maneuverability from 4 heavy-duty casters, 2 that are fixed and 2 that swivel with double locking brakes makes wheeling this prop a breeze. Yet, the locking casters prevent movement when flowing water. The entire unit is sandblasted. An epoxy powder coat finish is applied, followed by a red top powder finish. 2 reinforced shelves allow for transport and storage of fire hose, appliances, and tools. The basic model includes a 2.5-inch Siamese fire department connection, 6 2.5-inch angle hose valves, a system pressure gauge, and a sprinkler head with a control valve and water motor gong. The 7th outlet comes capped. The Affordable Standpipe Prop is available with your choice of Fireground adjustable pressure reducing valves from Elkhart Brass, Zurn, and Giacomini. You can also add the Dixon PRD, a screw-on adjustable pressure restricting device, a 7th standard hose valve, an additional sprinkler head, or the optional speed swivel appliance that can be used on the FDC. We pressure test the Affordable Standpipe Prop to 300 PSI so that you can pump realistic fireground pressures. If you need custom threads, a specific FDC, have any questions, or need a quote, just let us know. Elevate your training regimen with the Affordable Standpipe Prop, setting a new standard in fire department training excellence. Reach us at 84455 Towers or info@affordabledrilltowers.com.
Corley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance. It is no, it's not the weekly scrap. It is Mega Scrap Echo. Absolutely. We're going to be talking Tito. 2 in, 2 out. Over the past quarter century, there has been a lot of confusion about what 2 in, 2 out means to fire department operations, what effect it has on the civilians we protect, and our brother and sister firefighters. The authors of this article, specifically the ones that are here tonight to talk about it, and those who are not here. Let me shut my phone up. There we go. It was blowing up from the scrap going live. There is a lot of data from multiple sources: FSRI, Project Mayday, NFPA, USFA, NIOSH, AHA, Firefighter Rescue Survey, all converge on the simple truth that as research and data have influenced current changes in strategies and tactics, this 26-year-old requirement has run its course. We believe the evidence is clear that 2 in, 2 out slows and limits fire department operations, subsequently causing more harm to civilians and firefighters alike. Now, that's a beautiful statement to start off Mega Scrap Echo. And so, with that being said, I want to welcome our panel tonight, which is 3 of the 5 authors of the article we're talking about. Sam is going to post the article in the chat so you can click on it, save it. If you haven't read it already, shame on you. If you haven't read it already, make sure you do so. So with that being said, here we go. Sean Duffy, 19-year student of the fire service. He is currently a firefighter for the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and a co-founder of Build Your Culture. Sean has a strong passion for primary search. He has authored and co-authored several fire service materials on the topic. He strongly believes in preparation to achieve the most successful outcomes possible, both on and off the fire ground. He also loves Britney Spears almost as much as I love Avril Lavigne. Nick Ledin is a captain with Eau Claire, Wisconsin Fire Department, currently assigned to Truck 8. Ledin has been a student of the job for 17 years, is a contributor to Firefighter Rescue Survey, was the former president of the Northland Fools, and is a board member of Fire Nuggets. He served as a technical panel member of UL FSRI's studies and is a co-host of the Fire Nuggets and Grabs podcast. And he can also grow, in his own words, a pretty legitimate mustache. We'll let the camera decide. And finally, Chief Scott Thompson prefers to view his position as a firefighter with fire chief responsibilities. He joined the volunteer fire service in 1981, became a career firefighter in 86. Over the course of his career, he has worked with several progressive fire service organizations. If you know me, if you know the scrap, you know why I love Chief Thompson. He authored one of my all-time favorite books in the American Fire Service, The Functional Fire Company. He is a mentor to me and someone I gladly refer to, even though every time I say it, he shakes his head, as America's Fire Chief. So absolutely welcome to Mega Scrap Echo.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Corley, for having us on here, man. Much appreciated.
I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Always glad to come on, Corley. Thanks for the invite.
Anything I missed in the intros? That was a lot. Believe me, it's hard to cram you 3 into like 2 minutes or less. But anything I missed in the intros?
I don't think we hit on Sean's love of Britney as much as we should have. But other than that, I had nothing to add.
That is very, very fair.
Well,
there is a lot of already. I don't even know how. There's already been probably 50 comments in the chat already. As a lot of LFGs, a lot of let's goes, a lot of mega scraps, a lot of rocker horns, and a lot of these things.
Hang loose.
No, and a lot of fire emojis. So it's pronounced Eau Claire, Corley. Okay. I say Eau Claire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Q.
Almost there. We're almost there. Let's do this part. Anything I missed, I got that done. Now let's talk about those beautiful sponsors, and then we will get to the scrap. It is Keyhose, the OG sponsor of the scrap. Check them out online, keyhose.com. Follow them on Facebook. Affordable Drill Towers, on a mission to bring you cost-effective, versatile training props like the affordable bailout prop, which allows you to practice window bailouts, ladder bailouts, and ladder high point rescues. They also make the affordable standpipe prop, which you can roll into the classroom for standpipe theory and then roll it into the parking lot and pump realistic flows and pressures. And of course, their mainstay, the affordable drill tower. It comes in several configurations and standard with the standpipe system. Choose from 1 or 2 sets of stairs integrated into your existing Connect boxes for multi-story access or freestanding on a slab. All models are NFPA 1402 compliant and gain you ISO credit. The only thing you can't do on an affordable drill tower is live fire training. Call Steve, 844-55-TOWER, or drop an email to info@affordabledrilltowers.com. Fit to Fight Fire, one of my best friends in the world, John Spira. I love the man. He has a community of like-minded firefighters, all on a mission to become the best version of themselves. Man, if you're on a mission to become the best version of yourself, be a part of his community. They do it so they can serve their families and communities at the highest level. $5 a month, the cost of a cup of coffee. I mean, that's actually cheaper than a cup of coffee if you love the bucks. You will receive a workout of the day, daily inspiration, and monthly training. Head over to patreon.com/fit-to-fight-fire to become part of that community. And then finally, the First Line Fire Service Training, LLC, dedicated to pursuing excellence in our craft. If you know Chief Dennis Riley, you know he is passionate about sharing his knowledge. Find him on Facebook at First Line Fire Service Training, LLC. And with that being said, there was a lot of people that wanted to sponsor you guys tonight, so it was tough. But with that being said, we're ready to get to it. And who wants to set the stage? I'll just throw out a soft toss. Who wants to set the stage with what is going on with the standard, with the emergency response standard, with OSHA, and where we're at, and why you guys felt the need to write the article?
Yeah, I can take this. So honestly, this started like 2 years ago before we had any idea that OSHA was redoing the fire brigade standard, which is now the proposed emergency response standard. So this just happened to be like just perfect timing when we were almost ready to release this. This was kind of a slow process. We started, like I said, about 2 years ago. It was May of 2022 when I think we had kind of the first discussions, at least initially. And then as this got closer and we were 80-90% done, we started hearing some rumors in like February that, hey, looks like 2 in, 2 out is being folded into this new standard that OSHA is calling the emergency response standard. And there might be some slight tweaks to this. So we started looking into that. And that really helped us helped motivate us to make sure that we got this out in a timely manner. And the initial goal was to get this out with at least a month for people to have public comments. I think this was released May 18th of 2024. And the initial, not the initial, but the at that time,
The original.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even the original one, but the at this point in time, the date for public comments was the closing date for public comments was June 21st. We just found out in the past week that they have pushed that back to July 22nd. So all those listening, if you agree with this point, if you disagree with this point, if you want to make your voice heard, hopefully you can go to my Facebook page or Sean's Facebook page or the All In Facebook page and find a link and make a public comment, because all of us are smarter than any 4 of us or 5 of us here. And real quick, before we go any farther, I just want to say a quick thank you to Bill Carey and to Chris Thompson,
Yes,
who also helped co-author this, but couldn't make it here tonight. So thank you to those guys as well.
love it. And that's a nice synopsis, especially the most important part being the July 22nd cutoff is the current cutoff to get your comments in. And I don't know who says it all the time, but firefighters are good, really, really good at procrastinating and putting it off to the last minute. You say, give them 8 weeks to do something, they'll get it done in the last 15 minutes. So we should have just kept it with the June 21st and not let them know. But absolutely, get those questions in, everybody in the audience. If you have questions about the emergency response standard, if you have questions about the 2 in, 2 out, if you have questions about the data as applied to the fire ground and why it is important, please, please, please get them in. And again, I will take ownership of this. On a Mega Scrap, there's 3 guests. It's me and 3 guests, and everything about that. I would love to have just more and more on here, but at some point it becomes like a Zoom meeting where there's just people sitting and walking off the camera. So I cut it off at 3. So yeah, absolutely. Bill Carey and Chris Thompson contributed immensely to this. Joe Gavita wants to know right out the gate, has any of you received any feedback from anyone at OSHA so far?
0.
Just a black hole.
It's a black hole. Same thing with the IAFF, interestingly enough. So, no disrespect there, but I would have at least hoped that with this coming out that they would have entertained a conversation. But yeah, radio silence on both ends.
Right on.
Well, and to add a little clarity to that, some context, we had reached out to the IFF numerous times over the past couple of years, and it's been crickets from the get-go. So I'm a IAFF member. I appreciate the IAFF, but yeah, in full disclosure here, we've reached out multiple times and have not heard back from them.
Right. Okay. No. And that's all you can speak to is your experience. Question coming from the audience. This one's coming from Dennis Riley, Chief Dennis Riley. And I'm kind of throwing this at Scott Thompson. Not that I expect you to be like the de facto guy who knows everything about every fire station ever, but question for tonight: has a department ever been successful using 2 in, 2 out to increase staffing?
You know, not that I'm aware of. There are some very, very small number, and I can't think of those off the top of my head. When this was first introduced, I think I was a relatively new fire chief when it really started to pick up momentum. And so this was the big topic at all the fire chief conferences, and everybody was talking about how we're going to deal with this and so forth. In Texas, I can't think of maybe one department that has increased their staffing, and they're semi relating it to that, but I don't have a good answer for that, and I'm sorry. I'm sure there's a few. I don't know of many.
No, and I know it's a tough question to say, hey, you're representing every fire department out there. Please tell us how it went. But again, does and for Nick and Sean, do you guys know of anybody that's used 2 in, 2 out successfully to increase staffing?
I don't. I do know that there's been a lot of claims, especially since the position paper came out, that, hey, this has been instrumental in staffing. And if that's true, good on you. But I mean, it's pretty clear. OSHA says that was never its intended purpose. And interestingly enough, when you reach out to these individuals who claim that this have worked and you ask for proof, like, hey, I would like to see this for myself so that I can educate myself. If I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong and I'll own it.
Right.
The response that you usually get is, oh, those are confidential and they don't like to be shared. So those are big red flags for me of, well, if you're going to claim something, right, that this has indeed helped you, why would you not want to share that with the rest of the fire service and help others that might be struggling? So I don't have a good answer. I like to think that that's just like a default where people just say, oh, this has, helped with staffing. There's a lot of things in the fire service that people just repeat without digging deep and trying to find the facts. And that's really what this is about here. It's like, we have facts, we have hard data. And, if there is any of that stuff out there, please share it, because I'd like to see it.
No.
But Morley, also, if I can cut in, a lot of things have happened over that period of time. And one specifically was in the wake of Brett Tarver. And what was that, March 12th, 2002?
Yeah.
When and that's when I believe it was Nick Bernasini came out and said, rapid intervention isn't rapid. And it one Mayday will lead to multiple Maydays. And so I think things like that caused us all to really look at what we were committing to our rapid intervention forces. And so I say that to say it kind of muddies the water a little bit as to what created those staffing changes. Was it truly the 2 in, 2 out, or these other things that occurred that we looked at? And I think that has to be part of the conversation also, not just strictly the 2 in, 2 out.
That's a really good point, Chief. Just to piggyback on that, I would say that 1710, NFPA 1710 is another thing that's really important, along with, now we're talking data again, the NIST staffing study. I think the NIST staffing study has the biggest teeth when it comes to justifying the increase for staffing, going from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 or 2 to 4. So I think those have the most teeth. And it's hard to necessarily divorce if a department got more staffing because of 2 in, 2 out, or 1710, or excuse me, I'm losing my train of thought here. I've had too many beers tonight. Or where they're getting the justification for this. The NIST staffing study is where I was going with this. So it's really hard to kind of to pin the tail on the donkey here and say this is the reason that they got increased staffing. I think the unfortunate reality is since 1998, more departments have lost members than have gained members. And I think this is the biggest pushback that we've gotten since we released our white paper, is that people are saying that this is going to hurt staffing. Staffing has been hurting for years and years, regardless of 2 in, 2 out. And I think the thing that has the most teeth and what we should be relying on is the NIST staffing study and NFPA 1710. 2 in, 2 out does have a place at the table here, but I think that it's a net negative, and I think it's a net negative by, I think you're losing this hand by a long shot here, really.
Love it.
Forley, can I throw something in? That's
always, please go.
Get this conversation going. So, I've been doing this almost 40 years, worked for 6 fire departments, and I can say this, but I don't have the data to back it up. So this is opinion. I'll say that out front. It's the single thing that I can contribute to really increasing our zero impact period. And I'm talking about a time when I was riding tailboard and doing those kind of things. 2 in, 2 out, in my experience, has been the most single greatest contributor, if that is proper English, to increasing that zero impact period from the time we show up on scene until we start solving the fire and rescue problems. And I feel pretty confident in saying that, but I'd love to hear some other thoughts on that. But I just thought I'd throw that out there to get some controversy going and see where people stand on that. Saturday night, I'm not afraid.
Comments from Sean and Nick, and then comments from please on YouTube if you have comments on what Chief Thompson has said. No, I'm Sam's monitoring. You guys got to understand there are a lot of posts on the YouTube already. Sam is pulling them out.
Here's what I'll say to Chief's point. There is
yes, go.
Obviously I haven't been in the fire service a fraction of his time. 2 in, 2 out is always been there for me. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen it go to the extreme where we can't even do anything for a small little kitchen fire because we don't have enough people, and we just let that thing grow bigger. I've seen people say, "Oh, screw it, toss it out the window, whatever." I don't want to say that we need policies to tell us how to do our job, but when you have something that is not clearly defined and it's largely open to interpretation, that is dangerous, period. Because not everybody's going to be operating the same way, and everybody has different understandings of what that is. When I teach my search class, we talk about risk. Here's the thing about that. For anyone who's using 2 in, 2 out to justify risk, I ask what their definition of risk is. As you start going around and you start asking people to explain risk, what you're going to find out is it has almost no definition, because everybody's, again, interpretation of that is largely different, right? Show them a picture of a firefighter going in a window. People are going to say that's dangerous. And then show them that same picture and say, would you change your mind if this firefighter was coming out with a civilian in their arms? And there is a difference. People go, oh yeah, that's acceptable. Well, what's changed? Nothing, right? The act in itself is still the same. And that's what we need to understand here in the fire service with this 2 in, 2 out. Time wasted equates to more injuries for firefighters, more fatalities for civilians, right? Nothing is changing by keeping 2 people outside except a delay in what we said we were going to do, right? So that's kind of where I stand on it. Sidebar conversation, but we need to start thinking about that stuff, and stop being so risk averse. And we said it in the white paper, better training for everybody, firefighters, company officers, whoever. That needs to be taking place instead of risk averse policies.
Orly, I think also to tie into this, what I've probably seen more of are departments adding more apparatus to their initial alarm to address it than adding staffing to the rigs.
No. I got a question for you, Chief, real quick. I'm trying to find it. I wanted to. William Daniels wanted to know, Chief, what's the definition Chief Thompson used? What zero impact period is?
So to me, zero impact, and I didn't coin the term. I think I first heard it from Chief Brunacini. But zero impact period, to me, that's how I define the quality of a fire department. It's the time from when we get on scene and set the parking brake until we start solving the fire, rescue, or emergency medical problem, when we actually start doing the stuff that we're supposed to do. It's not the running around screaming the house is on fire or opening every door on the rig. Those all take away. And it needs to be like a golf score. The lower your zero impact period, to me, the greater value you're providing to your community. And that all comes from preparedness, setting your rigs up to be, work rigs instead of parade trucks and all those things. But to me, when I look at any fire ground operation in the initial stages, that's what I really look for is that zero impact period. How long until we start doing firefighter stuff once we get on scene?
Love it. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And anytime you guys hear them use any sort of jargon or definition you want to know, please ask, because
Yeah, great question. I'm sorry I took it for granted that everybody knew what that was.
And again, I'm in that same boat. I honestly assume everybody knows that everything that Chief Thompson is talking about.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Josh Everett asked a question: is there any talks from the U.S. Fire Administration? Have you guys heard anything on from the U.S. Fire Administration as far as anything goes?
And I don't think we will. I really don't.
Okay. Justin Fraze coming at you says, who, if anyone, is pushing for the new OSHA standard? Who, if anyone, is pushing back against members on the panel trying to justify or defending 2 in, 2 out?
Ooh.
It's a great question, Cap, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know if it's anybody in particular. It's hard to say this sole individual or this sole entity, whatever it may be. I'll be honest. Largely, it's been positive. We've been getting a lot, at least from what I've been seeing. A lot of this is the best thing I've read in years. Like, thank you, finally someone has said it. Like, people seem to be like at that point where they're like fed up with it. And finally there's something out there where they're like, hey, we can finally have this conversation without being afraid. And I think that's what this is about, whether it be this particular topic or any issue in the fire service is, you got to do what's right. And I can't speak for any of the people that helped author that white paper with me, but I can tell you this, every single one of us are going to stand up for what's right, no matter what. Like it, love it, hate it, doesn't matter. The right thing is always the right thing, and it needs to be said. So for those people that have negative comments, there's not really any depth to what their negativity is. They're not really bringing any hard factual arguments to the table, and that's what I want to see. Like, if you don't agree with it, that's fine. You don't have to, but at least come to the table and show me something that contradicts with what we're saying, that's factual and that you can prove. Like, there's one thing that has to happen on every fire ground, right? We need to be operating on known truths and not opinions. And there's a lot of opinions in the fire service. So I would like to think that if anything, that most of it has largely been positive.
I love it. No, that's great. And go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was going to echo that. I thought Sean's brought up some pretty good points tonight. His talk about how risk isn't just a nebulous word. I think safety is a nebulous word. And the pushback that we have gotten, while it's been just a fraction of the positive feedback, has been all dogma and not much data. And I think one thing that we did a really good job of is presenting the actual data that we have. We're talking about data from multiple streams at this point in time. So we got data from FRSI, Firefighter Rescue Survey, Project Mayday, the American Heart Association, the USFA, all the line of duty information from Bill Carey. So we got multiple streams, and all this data is kind of converging on this, to me, kind of overt truth. And I like to think that I'm kind of open-minded about this topic. So if anybody has any legitimate pushback that's supported by data, please let us know. But all we've really gotten at this point, till this point, has been dogma, really.
So I started keeping a little journal because I got a lot of calls on this and no data, but most of the calls that I got, it all had to do with staffing, nothing to do with operations. I haven't had a conversation yet that was about operating with the setup, and it's all been the staffing. So that tells you something right there. And one of my I think responsibilities in this whole project was to read the final paper and to remove some of the emotion. And there's very little emotion in it that I could see. I'm a big guy who accuses the fire service being heavily governed by emotion-based opinion. So when I sat down to really look at the drafts and the great work that everybody else did, that was probably on the forefront of my thinking was, I don't want this to be emotion-based opinion, because I've argued against that for years. And there's very little, if any, in there. And that's that's a huge attribute to those that put did the heavy lifting on this.
No, it's good. I'm reading. I got so many. I'm trying to figure out. Yard breathers, BJ Breacher, and this is a great question. I really want to dig into this because I think a lot of people have this question. Do we have any idea or an inkling as to which direction OSHA may be headed with 2120?
No, I don't really know that anybody has that ability to kind of foresee that right now. The only thing we can do is keep doing what we've been doing, where if this is something you feel strongly about, speak up. This is the first time in 26 years that we've had that opportunity. You owe it to yourself, the fire service, the citizens that you swore to protect. Hell, you even owe it to each other, everybody in that firehouse, to do the right thing and speak your mind. And I think that's really going to be the only way that we can start to steer the ship. Otherwise, it's just going to be stamped in there and here you go. Because if we can't learn to govern ourselves and come in, somebody's going to do it for us. And when that happens, we won't have a say, right? So, I don't really know which direction they're going to go. I like to think, and this is probably just me being a little biased here, we have data and information from multiple streams, right? This isn't just a group of individuals sitting down reading project data from there and going off of this. This is literally Project Mayday meets Fire Rescue Survey. That information correlates, right, to FSRI and their studies. Multiple studies over multiple different years from different platforms, different individuals are all converging on the same truths. And I think that right there is what OSHA needs to look at. And if they can open their eyes and see that, I don't know if they're going to have a choice but to really take a look and change some things.
Is the case that they're not even considering the fire service? It's just we're just getting folded into it, and if we're not careful, we're not even addressed. And is that a fear, or is that just do we just not know?
No, I think it's at the federal level. So obviously lobbyists are going to play a big part in this, right?
Right.
And those groups that have the money, and you can plug in whatever group that is, that to hire those lobbyists and pay them to, get to those decision makers. Obviously, you're going to have the upper hand. We released this, and it was a discussion we had. We really released this on one site, and that was basically it. Now it's taken off and gone a bunch of different directions, and the power that one site had has been amazing. But we don't know what the lobbyists, those lobby groups, are going to do with this, and that's my biggest concern. And we won't know.
No, it's beautiful. And no, I'm sorry, man. You guys are the YouTube is putting up great comments. It's hard not to read them and get sidetracked because they're making great discussion as we're talking. I
want to throw one more thing in here, Corley.
Go, Nick. Go.
And this is just more contextual stuff. And this is something that I didn't really know until we started kind of diving into this. But the respiratory protection standard, and that's where 2 in, 2 out currently lives, that started in 1971. So for the first 27 years, the fire departments were excluded from this. They were purposefully excluded from this. And then, for a handful of reasons, we were then included. So we've been running this experiment for 26 years, and we've had data from 27 years prior to us being part of this respiratory protection standard. And it doesn't look like the needle has moved at all to make firegrounds safer for firefighters due to keeping people outside. I think a really powerful analogy. I always think these kind of stories go farther, right? So let's pretend that it's your house on fire. And I don't know, I can't speak to everyone's departments here. I'm familiar with some of your departments, but my department runs 3 people on their rigs. So now we show up to my house, which is on kind of the west side of the city where I live. Let's assume that everybody else is in station. That first due is going to be there for probably 3 or 4 minutes. Now, if the second due is now on another call, now they're probably going to be on scene by themselves operating for 5 or 6 minutes till the third due gets in there. So now with 3 people on scene, What the new protection standard says, or the emergency response standard says, is that unless somebody tells them that there's somebody inside, or they actually visually see somebody, that they can't go inside. If they have to wear an SCBA, that they can't go inside unless they see somebody or somebody on scene tells them that there's somebody inside.
So
now we're talking 5 or 6 minutes at my house where I live right now. If the second dude's on another call, they're on a medical downtown. Can you imagine if your house is on fire, just sitting there waiting? Now you can do a 360. You can probably catch a water supply. But other than that, you're stretching your first line and then you're just waiting. And this is something that we are now required to do. This is federally mandated or state mandated that we do this.
So part of it is there.
Take that analogy. And I want to just switch it just a little bit. And I want to take something that Mo Davis always talks about. Now pretend that this is some kid who's drowning in water, because that's exactly what's happening inside these fire grounds. Some kid is drowning in a pool right now, but we only have 3 on our rigs and we're not sure what's going on. But in actuality, some kid's drowning there. Now we got to wait for 5 or 6 minutes. Could anybody justify that? How about we just let the firefighters and the fire chiefs that are on scene make the decisions about what they can and cannot do? Not some organization. With all due respect to OSHA, they do a lot of really good things. How about they don't tell us what to do months and years before this fire happens, or decades before this fire happens? I don't know. This seems pretty over.
So no, I want to ask this real quick, and we'll dig into it, please. Are they doing away with the reasonable belief? Like, is that going away in here? Is that the whole?
That language is not found in the new one.
Woo.
2 things, Corley. You must physically see the individual, or there must be reports of somebody inside. Now, here's the thing. Anybody who's following Firefighter Rescue Survey knows that the data that is collected from actual fire ground rescues will show you that there's reports, and guess what? People may not be in there. Reports of individuals, where their location is, may be wrong. There may be 0 reports and people are found. So what that's showing us is that reports or no reports, nothing needs to change for us, right? And I'm not saying that we're just going to go into a situation that we shouldn't be in because, we should or whatever. What I'm saying is that the only people capable of confirming whether someone is or is not in that structure is the fire department. And now you're going to handcuff us to make that decision, right? Let's be real here for a second. Not everybody in a fire is going to be able to speak, right? They might be incapacitated. Not every information that we get, whether it be from neighbors or the homeowners themselves or wherever, is going to be accurate. So we owe it to our citizens to go in there and double check that. If we don't do that and we get handcuffed into this policy, which says, doing away with the reasonable belief and all that, people are going to die. And
no,
that is going to happen.
Risk-averse Chiefs' wet dream is what it sounds like.
I know we're speaking emotional here, but we have the data, and we're more than happy to start speaking to the data that we have to back up all these claims as well. And a quick little just kind of caveat and an exclamation point to something that Sean said that might have been kind of a throwaway comment is that we're not asking people to do dumb stuff, to walk through fire, to do anything that they're not physically capable of doing. It's not what we're saying. We just don't want to be handcuffed before we ever arrive on scene.
No, it's crazy because, it just blows my mind that they can be that disconnected. The Colony Project, I'll reference the Colony Project because what do they expect? What does the citizens expect of their fire department?
Forley, think about this, and I hope someday I'm at the top of this list, but who are our advocates for fire victims? Name me one organization that's advocating for fire victims. Yeah, crickets. There's something wrong there. We have a good portion of the American, and this is emotion and opinion, but a good portion of the American Fire Service is looking for reasons to get less involved with aggressively solving fire problems, and they're not using the data that's out there in all different spectrums to get more involved, to train better and be better. But it really concerns me that we don't have a national group or a voice for fire victims. And because of that, this whole thing is one-sided.
No, you're absolutely
I disagree with that if you do, but put up some names up there. Tell me who is advocating for fire victims in the American Fire Service.
I'll see if anybody has anything to throw at you, Chief, and I will promise I throw it at you if they do. I'm gonna get this one coming from Carpe Fuego. Forgive my ignorance. What are the real world consequences of a fire department not complying with 2 in, 2 out, and instead simply employing appropriate tactics, legally or fiscally?
It all depends how the situation plays out, right? If you injure or kill a firefighter, depending on where you live, if you're an OSHA state, if you're not an OSHA state, there could be penalties. I'm sure there could be civil litigation. There could be a lot of consequences. If you make the grab and you're a hero, and there's not going to be that problem. So we all kind of we're playing kind of Russian roulette here, right? We're going to bend the rules a little bit and hope we don't get caught. But in Texas, it's not going to be a problem until somebody gets hurt or killed.
Right.
Yeah. So some people say, "Oh, it's just fines or whatever," but throughout my research, when this all started years ago, because I'll be honest, I've never been a fan of this, and I've always been one to kind of question things, not to be an asshole, just because, hey, like I'm not going to take something at face value just because you told me to, right? That is literally the definition of a dictatorship, and that's not how I work, right? I need to fully understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, and what that process is. And what I've read, on OSHA's website is, yeah, that people have been seriously fined. It could be up to jail time, even. If you're found the reason why somebody died because that was your decision and you willingly violated what this standard said you needed to do, especially if you're in an OSHA state, right? So, I mean, the ramifications for not doing it can be big. Most people can probably get away with it because, let's be honest, 90% of the time, nothing's probably going to happen. But that 10% of the time, or whatever percentage that might fall into, that something indeed does happen, you bet your ass OSHA is going to want to come in and do an investigation, right?
Right.
And if they find out that you willingly and knowingly disobeyed what they wanted to, like, that hammer's coming down whether you want to or not. And the excuse of, well, I did what was best for my civilians, that shit ain't going to fly. They don't care.
Right.
It's going to be just like a construction accident if you don't put shoring in a trench. They're going to look at it kind of the same way, right? That's how OSHA operates. They're going to come in, do the investigation, and find out where you were at fault.
Yeah, man. No, yeah. I want to touch on this. This is my own personal thing. I want you guys to touch on making a comment to OSHA and the hoops you have to jump through, because it's not simply going to a website and type in your opinion. There's a little more to it. So please give kind of the step-by-step process of that for the people, so hopefully we can set people up for success in doing so.
I would say first read, make sure you educate yourself on what you're about to say, because nothing is going to be worse than just getting on there and blasting some garbage that OSHA is going to be like, that's great, but you have no proof, right? So read the current standard, right? Read the white paper we just put out. Read the proposed changes. I get it. It's 250 pages, but guess what? On page 64, right there, everything you need to know about what's happening for us in the fire service, right? And I do want to just take a small moment to say, like, the ERS is not all bad, right? This fight is not against the ERS. It's against the 2 in, 2 out portion, right? That's where this fight lies. They are proposing some really great things for the industry. With that said, after you read and you educate yourself, there's the link. We put it in our position paper, and there's a QR code on our all-in page and in the position paper. It's easy to find. I mean, hell, you could probably Google OSHA 2 in, 2 out, and find whatever you wanted to find. It's really not that difficult. But the one thing that you don't want to do is just say, oh, well, I heard Sean or Chief Thompson or Nick or whoever talk about this, so I'm just going to repeat.
Right.
Do the work, right? That's really where this matters. If we're all just saying the same thing and it looks like a candid copy and paste response, that's not going to do anybody any good. So you have to arm yourself with the information.
Arm yourself with the information, make an articulated argument, and maybe we can make a dent in it.
Yeah, I'll second what Sean just said for like the second time tonight or the third time tonight. I know that I've been on an NFPA committee before, and if people are just copying and pasting the same exact thing, we just, after the first one, you just fly by the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth one. You don't even read them. You're like, hey, this is copy and paste. We already addressed this. So make sure that you are articulate, make sure that you are making a valid point, and look at data. I think the data goes a long ways. But whether you agree with us or you don't, make your voice heard. I think all of us, the entirety of the fire service, need to help make this decision. So I welcome anybody that wants to push back against the data that we have and the argument that we're making. And I like to think that I'd have an open mind if you come to us with that information. I just haven't been presented with anything that has even started to change my mind on this. I think the data is very explicit here, and I think that if people read this paper and then they make a comment, I think that we'll be in a better place. The fire service will be in a better place, and so will the civilians. Most importantly, so will the civilians.
I'm reading this one because I'm going to make a point here. Carpe Fuego, in addressing Chief Thompson's question about what entities exist that advocate for fire victims. And she said, I don't know of any entity that advocates for fire victims, more particularly for supporting tactics / training that prevents fire victims in the first place. But then she goes with the ellipses, ... seems it should be us. And that's what we're talking about here by making our voices heard on this standard. Is
right. It should be us. It should be us. But you don't hear a lot of it out there, unfortunately.
No, especially in a concerted, coordinated effort to make a difference in the standard. Because we don't make the standard. We're a scattering of departments scattered across the country, volunteer, combination, paid on call, and everything in between. And
you read the newsletters from IAFF and I-Chiefs, and they're all the time. You don't see much in there advocating for fire victims. It's all about us.
Yeah, I'm going to second what Chief just said here. I don't know if anybody saw the paper that the IAFF put out, and I will say that I am a card-carrying member. Okay, so I have a huge problem when you lump us into a category of over 350,000 firefighters, and you say this is what we want, this is what's best, when you've never even sent out a damn survey to figure out what your members want to begin with. I can't speak for everybody, but I never got asked. You're speaking on behalf of an entire nation, right? Full of firefighters that are in this international. And I almost think they're afraid to ask because it's not going to be in their favor. I can tell you that much, right? And when I have union people, I'll just put it that way, saying, hey, you know what? If the majority, right, the union represents the majority. If the majority says they're not in favor of this, they're going to sway their vote. I challenge that then. Let's see if it works, right? If that's true and that's how it goes, then anybody who's part of the IAFF should make their voice heard and see, because we deserve it. And the argument from the IAFF is what? We're always going to side on the way of firefighter safety. Well, guess what? The safest thing you can do is put all members to work immediately to mitigate the hazards that are going on, because the longer we wait, the more we get injured, the more people have potential to die, including ourselves, right? 2 people standing in the front yard does absolutely nothing. And here's the fallacy in this right here, okay? You have the standard that says 1 person could be outside in command and 1 other person could be pumping the truck. What good are those 2 people in those roles when I enter the door and I fall into the basement? 0. They're not geared up, ready to work. It's going to take them some time to get their shit together to come and get me. Who are the people that are taking their place when they come in to get me? Oh, we haven't thought about that yet, right? So this idea. Go ahead, Chief.
No, I'm tying right into which, and then it's the 2-person ambulance crew that I'm signing to my IRIT, and both of them have a week on the job, and they're assigned to IRIT, and their job is to go in and save these more experienced firefighters. All those things, exactly what you're saying, Sean.
Yeah,
it's so loose how we define that we're lucky we're not seeing more injuries caused by it than not.
Yeah. Well,
this seems commonsensical, right? But let's look at what the data actually shows. So Project Mayday has data from 12,000 277 Maydays. Now, who is rescuing those people? Is it the people that's outside? Because if and these numbers, I'm trying to remember here. Sean, please correct me here.
Hey,
But
Bill is in the audience. He will correct you if yeah.
Please, 7.9% of the time, it's the RIT crew that's actually making these rescues. It's some crew that's outside that makes these rescues. Almost 90% of the time, it's self-rescue. It's the crew of the person that's in trouble that makes the rescue, or it's another interior crew that's making the rescue. So if we look at the actual numbers, that argument doesn't hold a lot of weight either. That keeping people outside helps us, when 90% of the time, or nearly 90% of the time, it's other interior crews. And the exterior crews, now we're talking less than 8% of the time.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. Putting our civilians first is safer for us, hands down, right? The faster we get crews in that building, all available crews that we can, to put water on the fire and search for victims, ventilate the structure, all the things that we need to do, the faster not only the incident gets mitigated, but the faster people get removed, including a downed firefighter, all right? Here's the alarming statistic that I think the IAFF is forgetting here. If you ask, right, and this has been asked, how many people have faith in their RIT team? 16%. 16% of people who have actually experienced the Mayday have faith in the people who are coming to get them. But keeping those people outside is safer for us, right? Now, if you flip it and you say,
great point.
What was the percentage of people that had faith in their company officer? 83%. Okay. 82% had faith in their incident commander. So we have more faith in the people, right, that are next to us and the people running that incident than the people that we put in charge to come save us if something happens. That is a problem. That needs to be addressed. So pushing this standard and just assigning whoever to those two positions because it's a checkbox and you've met it, it's not practical. It doesn't work. That's been proven. It's time to move on, and we need to realize this and take that data and say, how can we get better, right? Nobody wants to experience a Mayday. Nobody wants to be in command of a Mayday. Nobody wants to be on the crew going to get that down firefighter. So maybe if we just made smarter decisions and we stood more situationally aware on the fire ground, we can avoid a vast majority of these Maydays.
You said something really important there. So if we make it better for them, and I'm going to paraphrase Aaron Fields here, and I think this statement potentially is something that if you don't think about, you don't realize just how wise this is. But he has a statement that he said, that says, we make it better for them, it's better for us. By definition, it's better for us. So if we make it for them, if we make it better for them, so the people without SCBAs, without a shirt on their back at 2:30 in the morning, like if we make it better for them, by definition, it's better for us. And I think that's the exact way that we need to look at this. Not emotional. We have the data to back this up as well. So FSRI, Fire Safety Research Institute, has shown over the years that fires are absolutely getting faster. Fires in 2024 have a higher heat release rate, have more power, are faster than fires in 1950. And this is something that's static. It's not just A and B. This is something that is slowly moving, and fires are likely going to continue to get faster as well. So fires are getting faster. 2 in, 2 out forces too many departments to actually be slower. Not only are we then, say you have a crew of 4. So now we have a crew of 4. I can only send 2 in now. Say we have 4 people and maybe a pump operator is there as well. So maybe we have 5 people. So now some of those people have to wait outside. So not only this is best case scenario when it comes to staffing where we have 4 or 5 people on a rig, but only 2 people can go inside. What if this was your family? What if this was your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, someone that you love that was inside? Would you be okay with a couple people just waiting outside just in case something bad happens to firefighters in the first handful of minutes? Now, if we look at data from from Project Mayday, we're finding that 1 out of every 200 Maydays actually happens in the first 10 minutes on scene. And that's really what we're most concerned with when it comes to 2 in, 2 out, is the first handful of minutes on scene. I don't have a problem when we have 16 people on scene by having a RIT established outside or an IRIT established outside. I have a problem in the first handful of minutes when civilians have a shirt on their back and nothing else. No SCBA, no bunker boots, no pants, no hooks, no Halligans, no hand lines, no ladders, none of this stuff, no NIMS, no ICS. They don't have any of this. Fire engineering, firehouse vigilance. They don't have anything. They have nothing but us.
No, bro.
That's where I have my problem is the first handful of minutes. 1 out of every 200. 1 out of every 200. That's 0.5%. That's 0.5% of Maydays happen in the first 10 minutes.
Now, a couple of things I want to hit on here. First, I want to read Bill Carey's comment, which he said, data also shows that the vast majority of inside line of duty deaths occurred when there were far more than 2 out on the scene. And so I wanted to bring up his quote there. But then the other thing I want to say is I've been taught since I hired on in 1997 that you're most likely to have a Mayday in the first few minutes of an incident.
Yeah.
I've heard this. I've been preached at this, just like, I mean, this is like as much as 30-degree power cone. Don't invert the thermal layer. You know what I'm saying? This has been beaten to my head when I first hired on.
That 1 out of 200, that 0.5%, that number blew my mind when I started realizing what that was saying. 1 out of every 200 happened in the first 10 minutes. That's insane to me.
The thing is, the largest percentage of Maydays, which I believe, Bill can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 19%. Okay. That was the largest when we looked at all those Maydays. That's happening 20 to 25 minutes into the incident. Not immediately.
Not in the first 5, or like I've always heard, you're most likely to be caught in a Mayday in the first, if you're the first arriving engine, if you have 2 years or less on the fire department. These are the numbers I've heard. And I feel like I'm a plugged in dude as far as I know. So that to me, to hear that the 0.05 is mind blowing.
I'll tell you this, Corley. There's plenty of plugged in firefighters that I know that have never heard of Project Mayday or any of the other data streams that are out there, right? So what does that tell you? It doesn't matter how plugged in you are. For whatever reason, this information is not being circulated. My opinion, and this is just Sean's opinion, this shit should be being taught in Recruit Academy. The minute you come in the door, this stuff should be reviewed with you so that you know. Like this scare tactic stuff that we give people, like if you do this, you're gonna die. If you separate from the wall, you don't hold on to the boot of your partner,
lose
you're
your
gonna
boot.
die. Like, yeah, that shit is garbage. Like, where is the statistics to prove any of that? There are none, right?
But Sean, then we have that group that are saying that self-reporting is not accurate data, and if we don't self-report it and investigate it, then that shouldn't count. I don't buy into that, but there is that school of thought out there, and so maybe that is some of the resistance with things like Project Mayday and the Firefighter Rescue Survey, because those are basically they start out self-reporting and then there's deeper investigation into them.
Well, yeah. I mean, go ahead, Nick. Nick and I talked about this the other day, so I'll let him speak this.
Yeah, I don't want us to steal your thunder here, but I think we're both in agreement here that almost all data within the fire service in some aspect is self-reported, right? Whether it's voluntary
or whatever. Yes. We write our own history.
Absolutely. So USFA data, NFIRS or NIFRS data, Firefighter Rescue Survey data. The only one that kind of stands outside of all that is FSRI data. This is something that's experimental data. It's empirical data, and they do an amazing job. I could not be a bigger fan of FSRI than I actually am. But they're really the only data stream that we had that kind of stands outside of this. And I can't speak too much to AHA data, the American Heart Association data, and we did include some of that because I'm not exactly sure how they get all of their data and what is self-reported and how they get some of their data. So I'm going to remain kind of agnostic on that one. But everything else within the fire service is self-reported. And I don't know, I'm sure everyone here has filled out some NIFRS or NFIRS reports before. And as much as it probably pains people to say this, I don't think they're always 100% accurate. I think sometimes it's garbage in, garbage out when it comes to that as well.
Absolutely.
So I don't disagree with the pushback. I think it's a fair pushback, but I think you need to step back and look at this holistically and realize almost every single data stream that you've ever seen has been self-reported.
ever.
And as a
Now,
fire chief that's responsible for the members of my organization, I would rather have self-reported data than no data. So I'm still okay with that. It may not be the highest level of data, if that's a correct way to put it, but having the self-report is better than none at all. So I'm kind of torn on that. I can see both sides of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll say this, and it may not even correlate to what we're talking about, but this is just my mind here. We have an on-the-job injury that is expected to be self-reported, right? So are we just going to disregard that those injuries happened because they're self-reported? It is literally in most places policy that if you are injured, you have to write an injury form. Okay. So if we can understand it at that micro level, why is that such a hard thing to understand when we're starting to dissect things on a much larger level?
There's a quote that comes to mind here, and I'm going to screw this up here, but it's in, I think it's in the forward to your book, Chief Thompson, and it's by Brush. And he said something along the lines of, can you imagine if our fire departments or our city administrators had as much faith in us as the civilians that we serve do? And I think that same thing kind of circles around when we're talking about the self-reported data right here.
You're right. Great point.
So
no, that is a phenomenal quote, phenomenal book, phenomenal quote, phenomenal author, phenomenal forward,
Phenomenal forward.
phenomenal forward. But no, a phenomenal application to the people that say, well, that's just self-reported data. You know what I'm saying? That's a phenomenal answer to it.
let me look it up real quick. Don't get this wrong.
Okay, Chief Salka. He's always doing that on the hump day.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm seeing it. Okay. Over 10 minutes, less than 8%. I'm looking.
What questions do we have, Corley?
Man, we got a ton. I'll just read the top one. Cody Testrel coming at you. Time is our enemy. 4 exclamation points. Do we support our brothers and sisters in blue staying outside, delaying action while waiting for 2 out before they engage the enemy?
Chief.
I can tell you absolutely not. They don't wait.
Let's talk about Uvalde. Pull that thread a little bit more, Chief. You do a great job at this.
No, and I think we can learn from that if we just take a minute and look at, and this is not a dig at law enforcement, it's more about public perception and public expectations, right? And because kids are involved, but the whole fire service, we should have reports on law enforcement's response to active shooters and what can the fire service learn from that. Because what law enforcement is finding out going all the way back from Columbine is that they did not meet the citizens' expectations, and therefore the citizens, the people who fund their existence, have said, no, we're not okay with that. This is how we expect you to respond. And I'm telling you, we're 1 or 2 bad events away becoming nationally becoming national news before we're in that same category. And we need to have that awareness. But think about that. If law enforcement was to come out and say, we're not going to enter an active shooter situation until we have a sufficient number of officers outside, I can tell you right now that conversation would last until that person was done talking.
And I think that the reality is that's kind of how they initially started, right? If you go back to Columbine, because we've had, it's unfortunate that we had so many of these incidents happen, but that pendulum has swung. And these are some things that happen in front of the whole world, right? When these things happen, oftentimes we have citizen journalists or even journalists right there in real time, kind of showcasing what is happening right now. And I think that pendulum has swung pretty far in this case to be like, no, when you get there and you can do something to nullify the threat, go in and do it. And that's
the Department of Justice, and the Texas House of Representatives have come out in a formal report and said to law enforcement that you will be willing to risk your lives to save the life of innocent victims.
Yeah, I think this is I'm glad Cody brought this up. I think this is such an apt and kind of perfect parallel for what we're talking about right now.
But then you look at, law enforcement is encouraged to run into burning buildings and save lives. And that was part of my research also for the book. Is I called many of my friends that are police chiefs. I said, send me your policy on police entering burning buildings, and I got none. So they're unrestricted. And the more
In polyester, without bunker gear, without an
yeah,
SCBA.
with gas canisters and their coaching shorts and everything else, right? And it, to me, that's gonna when that gets reconciled, that's gonna be a tough thing to explain.
Well, and something that I think is worth highlighting here right now is that when you look at who is locating victims and who has the highest survival percentage, and this data stream comes from Firefighter Rescue Survey, a tip of helmet to the boys and girls in blue is it's cops. 94% survival percentage at this point in time. Blows primary search out of the water, blows attack out of the water, blows everything else out of the water. Again, they're wearing their service revolver. They have patent leather boots and they have polyester clothes on at this point in time.
But because they get there early, because they're already on the street.
Time.
Yeah,
and that's
they get
the
there
tactical
early. They're not waiting for 2 in, 2 out. They're not catching a plug on their way in. They don't, they're not thinking about NIMS or their 360 or anything else. They're just doing exactly what we would do if our neighbor's house was on fire. Whereas we see some searchable space and we open up the door or window and we do what we need to do.
And
they're able to take advantage of the windows of opportunity.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Corley.
And they're definitely parking right in front of the house.
Right. They get the best parking place, so that also adds to it.
Absolutely.
I will say this. When we have civilians making grabs with no PPE, when the fire department is on scene and have the appropriate personnel and ability to do so, and these things are being captured on film for everybody to see, we have a problem. We have a real problem. Okay?
That's like me walking out onto the NFL field and catching a touchdown. Like, that should not happen.
So why are we missing that? Why are we missing that as the American Fire Service?
Why are we missing that?
Exactly what Nick's saying.
Yeah.
That we're the fire professionals. It's our job to take those risks.
Well,
that's
I would
why
say
we
this.
exist.
I love your question, Chief. I think it's the existential question of the American Fire Service, honestly, and I think it's because, and please allow me to stroke your ego for a minute to say you're a unicorn when it comes to fire chiefs, because most fire chiefs don't have your attitude towards tactics, towards risk aversion versus risk acceptance. I think that's the crux of why it's missing. Now, please, that's my opinion, but go ahead.
No, you're exactly right. I think it started when we took the Tot Finder stickers off the windows, right? And that was an argument that was made back in like 1980, that it gave people a false sense of security, right? And it let us off the hook. It was another reason for us not to commit. But that was an invitation to do vent enter search in 1980. And since then, we've just piled on more and more reasons to worry more about us than the people that don't have all the things that Sean and Nick mentioned, air packs and protective clothing and all that. And at some point, we've got to change that direction.
Well, and I want to know this, because I don't know about Nick and Sean, and if you guys are involved in like interviews for hiring or anything like that, but I'll talk to Chief Thompson and say, I know that you sat through many interviews to hire people, and how many people have you heard say, well, if I get injured, then I just add to the problem, so I can't go in there.
Yeah, no. And 3 out of 10, like we say, are not willing to take the level of risk that we're asking them to take. And I think that number may be getting higher.
I'll probably get crucified for saying this, but I don't care.
I love it when the question starts that way.
Good preface.
You're in good company.
When you are more concerned about yourself than the mission, you are the problem.
Yeah.
Let's just put that out there, okay? And I am so sick and tired of seeing things that people can hide behind with zero repercussions, like they were already dead when I got there. There's nothing I could do. The house was fully involved when we all know it wasn't. Or
it's not my emergency.
Not my emergency. How about this one? Everyone goes home. No, the fuck they don't. Quit
not
filling
the person
our heads
sitting on
with
the
bullshit.
curb.
Like obviously that is the objective, right? Like we don't want to lose any firefighters, and we want to come back with the same amount of firefighters we went to the scene with. But to think that is logical, that everybody comes home every single time, is utter bullshit. It is. But we feed that to people, and we put that in promotional processes. We put it in books. We do it all the way from the beginning. It's an indoctrination to have a cowardice mindset. And quite frankly, I'm tired of it, right? This is the fire department. Nobody issued a draft card. We signed up to be here. We do dangerous shit. It's that simple. If that doesn't flow with you and you're not willing to take that step when duty calls and you're supposed to, then go find a different job. There's plenty of jobs out there that give a pension with great benefits. You don't need this one.
I can't disagree with you.
I want to read what did Carpe Fuego said. I don't think the reduced recruiting and retention. Let me retry again. Carpe Fuego said, I don't think the reduced recruiting and retention is somehow a separate phenomenon from our loss of identity and backbone.
There's probably some truth to that.
I'll tell you what, with recruiting, all right? You look at most recruiting posters, it's all about the perks and the benefits of the job. Very little is it actually about the job itself. So we are telling people, come here and you'll get all of these things without giving them the real expectation of what it is they're supposed to do. Now, again, when I do my search class, one of the things I tell people is if you did any type of research when you got hired, you looked at the application, right? On there, it should have a list of expectations for you. Like this job includes all of these things. So even on the promotional, like trying to hire people, right? When you're sending out those flyers, I don't really think people are reading what's expected of them. And by the time they get there and they go through all their training, they're like, I'm sorry, I have to do what? It's been right there in front of you the whole time. And by the time you raise your right hand, you put that badge on your chest, you should have read that at least 3 separate times. This is not a surprise, right? So I almost think that we should be putting that at the forefront initially, knowing that most people are going to see that flyer and say, what's in it for me? That's all they're after most of the times, right? Get away with that. Say, this is what your expectation is. And if you do this for your citizens, you will get this. End of discussion.
Eddie J said, he said, we need Chief Thompson's "we will work to get you reemployed" quote here.
No, that was going back to the law enforcement thing, though. I took that statement that Sheriff Murphy, who is with Denton County, who he put out after the shooting in Parkland, Florida, and he just simply made a statement to his officers that said, we will engage a shooter. We will not wait for SWAT. We're not going to wait on another agency right on down the line. And I use almost the exact language and applied it to the fire service. We're going to search all searchable areas. We're going to go in and do that thing. And I did it kind of as an exercise, a comparison, but you would not believe the hate mail that I got and people saying that I'm trying to kill firefighters. And I hate to keep bringing it up, but there's very few that's listening to this where it's more personal. I got 2 sons that are firefighters and very busy fire companies. I got 5 grandbabies. I can tell you if my 5 grandbabies are experiencing fire, I want my 2 firefighter sons to get their ass in there and save them. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't get much more personal than that. And I think of my men and women in the Colony Fire Department the same way. But we got to going back to what Sean said, we got to make that clear on day one that you're going to be put in positions to take some risks, and you need to understand that early on. But we skirt all around that. And we try to make this a job for everybody. And when we do that, we end up where we are.
Dude, I love the topic. I love the direction we've gone. Absolutely. Bill Carey
going to get fired tomorrow, but outside of that,
sure. Sean's already said it's okay. Bill Carey said 2 in, 2 out, along with "everyone goes home" slogan, not the program, are largely based on the incorrect, often repeated 100 firefighters die fighting fire every year.
Which
and
is not true.
He has done such a phenomenal job of debunking that
it's
repeated falsehood.
He is absolutely the subject matter expert when it comes to this. Let me look through some of my notes here. So using Bill Carey's data, Ben Schultz made an amazing graphic. And on average, over the last 10 years, now this data is a little bit old. It's from 2012 through 2021, but 3,410 civilians died in a fire. And when it comes to firefighters, average per year, it was, so 4.9, we'll call that 5, 6.5, 6.7 firefighters per year died inside of structure fires due to the primary or secondary effects of fire. The vast majority, if OSHA really wanted to protect firefighters, they'd make sure that we were eating healthy and that we were working out. That's what's killing firefighters. They'd make sure that we were driving nice and safe to fire grounds and to other emergency scenes.
In rural areas specifically.
Yeah, and not to dismiss the 6.7 firefighters on average that die on fire grounds every year, because that's tragic and horrendous, and that's not the whole point of what I'm saying right here. But it's not 100. The vast majority of firefighters are dying to cardiovascular reasons and to get in car accidents or accidents on their way to scenes and some other issues. So I think that narrative, I don't think anyone's done a better job of kind of dispelling that narrative than Bill Carey has.
Absolutely. Data,
He's
not
done
drama.
an amazing job of looking into the actual causes of death for these people, because sometimes they fall into some bucket, and that's not the bucket that it should fall into. So he does a better job of kind of clarifying that for the fire service.
No, because it's an easy mantra to get behind, and yeah, no, absolutely, man, absolutely. Where else we got? Chief Thompson? No, we got that one. We covered that one. Who is coming up? Got that one.
We need to get Nick talking a little more here. We need some more data here, buddy.
Well, so this is something that's not in our paper, but it's something that I was working on an article recently, and what we found is that 1 out of every 63 fires has somebody trapped. This is in the U.S. This is the best data that we have to date, and this is using Brian Brush's data from the first 3 months of 2020 and some other data streams. But 1 out of every 63 fires has somebody trapped before the fire department gets there. It's 1 out of every 63. Now, when it comes to the amount of how often we have a line of duty death, it's 1 every 83,000 fires, 84,000 fires. So we're talking over 3 orders of magnitude difference. And I know this is slightly myopic, just looking at civilian deaths or civilian people that are trapped versus firefighter deaths. But this is 3 orders of magnitude. This is 1,000 times different. So more than 1,000 times. So for every civilian that's trapped by fire when we get called, for every 1,000, excuse me, it's like 12,027. For every 12,027 firefighters, civilians that's trapped by fire, there is 1 firefighter that loses his life tragically inside of a structure fire. So I think if we want to compare apples to apples, these are the numbers that we need to compare. Again, horrible when a firefighter dies, but we're talking 3 orders of magnitude.
No, and no one's advocating for that. No one's advocating that, but we're advocating for data. The actual data, the actual truth. Let's talk actual numbers and not emotion and not opinion.
Yeah,
which is the epitome of data, not drama. Thank you, Bill Carey.
Well said, right? And if you type in data-not-drama.com, you can find our white paper. We know that there are 6 things that directly affect the survivability of civilians inside these structure fires. It's location or your proximity to the fire, your elevation within a given space. It's your duration, how long you're actually inside these fire buildings. It's our operations, it's our ventilation. So whether or not doors and windows are open, it's whether or not we're suppressing the fire. So we're putting water on this fire. So location, elevation, duration, isolation, whether or not you're behind a closed door, and then ventilation and suppression right there. But one of the most important ones, and one of the reasons that we have lights and sirens and opticoms, and the reason that we stage our gear the way that we stage our gear, and something that my kids inherently know, my wife inherently knows, and now we actually have data to actually back this up, is duration. So the longer it takes us to get inside, the more civilians that will die. Full stop. The longer it takes us to get inside, to start attacking the fire, to start searching for civilians, the more civilians that will die. Full stop, period. And that's really kind of the crux of my my goal to get fire departments re-exempted from 2 in, 2 out, because 2 in, 2 out slows us down. Full stop.
Beautiful.
Period.
Beautiful.
And there was a time when we were exempted.
27 years, the first 27 years of this, and the people that folded for the fire service into 2 in likely had the best of intentions. I don't want to denigrate any of those individuals at all. Hey, babe. But I do think that there were some untowards. It's the law of unintended consequences, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're seeing that now too. Like, not to cut you off, Corley.
No, you're good. I was about to cut you off, so you're good.
We're seeing that now too. Like, historically, numbers were at a low, right? So maybe when that was first enacted, that could have made a difference. But now, when majority of the fire departments in the U.S. are showing up with 1, 2 people on a rig, that's what they got. And now you're just further complicating their ability to impact the situation, right? So we at the very least need to look at what is currently happening in the fire service. What does our staffing models look like for the majority of us? Because not everybody works in a department where 2 in, 2 out doesn't matter, because they're putting, 30 firefighters on scene in less than 5 minutes, right? That right there is worth looking at. And I just wanted to backtrack for a second and touch on what Nick was talking about. We have this campaign, like the Close Before You Doze campaign. What a tragedy it is to our civilians to tell them, like, hey, close your door at night, we'll come for you. And then we show up to the house fire and we'll say, we'll come for you in 5 more minutes. Right?
Hang on, we'll be there. Hang on.
We're giving them false security. They're literally listening to us, right? Because we're pushing this campaign. We've proven the reduction in temperatures and all that stuff that happens by closing your door. And then we're going to say, hey, just hold on a minute, or 4 or 5, whenever I get 2 more people. Right. Then we'll come. Hell, by that time, they could have effected their own damn rescue and you're useless, right?
But also look at all the technology changes that have occurred over the last 26 years. Now, every firefighter has a radio. We have thermal imagers. We have better protective clothing. All those things that may not have been in place when this was implemented now. And so any smart initiative, you look at it after a period of time and you evaluate it and you say, is it applicable to today's environment? And I think that's where we are. And I think the work that we've all done is going to prove that up. My only hope is that we get rid of these biases and we listen. I always talk about those who say vertical vent is just too dangerous. I don't mind if a chief says we don't want to do that. We don't have enough staffing. It's very rich with risk. I get that. But to say it's too dangerous and Bill, jump in here, there's not enough data to support that. It's not an outlier to anything else we do. And that's what we got to get away from, are these emotion-based opinions where we throw out these statements and these firefighters, these fire officers that are very impressionable take that as gospel and they don't vet it and they don't challenge it. And that's how we get backed into these corners.
Dude, beautifully said. I want to read this one. This one just came in from Eric Cambarian. He wants to know, can the article's authors please clarify if they are advocating for elimination of all of 1910-134 G4, aka 2 in, 2 out, or just G4 Part 2, 2 out?
So maybe I'm not the right person to speak on this, but I'm all for making sure that we fit test, if this is where he's going with this, that we fit test annually, and that we make sure that people are prepared to go interior. But maybe Eric can clarify a little bit more. Maybe I'll pass this along to Sean or Chief. I don't know if you guys know.
I think I know what he's saying.
I'm not super versed on 1910, so if it's a loaded question, I don't. Go ahead.
No, it's the respiratory protective standard has a whole thing in there. There's a lot in there. I do not disagree, and I'm not calling for eliminating it, because that would practically be me saying what? Hey, let's go way backwards and go into fires without an air pack. That's just foolish. Okay. Back to what Chief was saying, we have better gear and protection now than we ever have before, right? So let's use that to our advantage. What I am advocating, and what I think everybody else is advocating for too, is we need to stop and take a look at this specifically 2 in, 2 out directive and realize that this experiment has run its course. There is no conclusive data to show that this worked, right? There's not enough conclusive data to really show that it's been effective in making like rescues of downed firefighters, maybe there is one or two, right? But over the span of 26 years, you would like to see more of that, right? So my point is, I think that we're advocating for taking a better look at how we could be more effective. And quite frankly, everything points to the way that we could be more effective, the way that we could be safer, and the way that more civilians live is by us putting all the resources we have to mitigate all the problems we currently have. That is the simplest way. It's about reduction in time, right? The rest of the standard's great. I don't have any issues with it, but the 2 in, 2 out is not what the fire service was built for. It's hypocritical to our mission, and I don't think it needs to be in existence.
Corley, I'm advocating for time and the use of personnel. To me, firefighting is situational first, local second, then regional, and then occupational. And I want to be able to have the ability to use the system to best fit the colony, Texas, for our needs, and to have that flexibility. When I was in Lake Cities, we had a fire at a Nissan dealership. I had a whole 1 alarm as my rapid intervention crew. It was tilt wall construction. We just had, it was, and there it was fully justified. But on the stuff that we're going to in these 2,000 square foot homes, you can't convince me that getting in there, all the things we've said, getting in there and taking care of those problems initially with the force that we have is not the best place to position our people for success and survival. So I'm advocating for bringing back a little bit more of that local control to say, this is my system, this is what I have, this is what I deal with. Let me use my people however they can best be used in those early stages of the incident.
Beautiful.
I agree with Chief there. I mean, that's really the thing. For many years, I worked for a transporting fire department. And guess what? If I showed up on the ambulance, I did one or two things. I was either rehab, right? Or I was RIT. That's it, right? You hope that you got there first so you got a better job like search or something because we sent 2 ambulances to every fire. But like reality is like when you get there, they're looking at you because there is no private ambulance company. You're it. You're offering that service. And I always felt like, man, I understand that if something was to happen to our firefighters, we need to take care of them. But every single person on this fire ground is a paramedic. There's plenty of us here to be able to handle this, right? Maybe, like if that's your worry, let's be honest for a second. If you're worried about downed firefighters, like RIT being a thing, a Mayday should require a second alarm response anyway. That is very time consuming and it's very personnel consuming. So why don't we just make all fires 2 alarm fires, right? By that logic. Yeah. My point being is we're taking people that could be working to help make an incident safer for everybody, and we're putting them on the sidelines and making them watch. What does that do for morale, and what does that ultimately do for the incident? Nothing. It really doesn't. And like Chief alluded to earlier, those are often probably your newest members of your fire department. Is that really the experience you want them to have is to get none? Right. The safest thing they can do is learn how to be a firefighter. And you're not even giving that opportunity because you're putting them in timeout. Right. This is a delicate topic because it is so highly emotional for a lot of people. But what we're all saying is like, can we just be logical thinkers? The fire department, when they show up to their fire, should be the ones to dictate what happens on that fire ground, not some entity that's not even there. Okay. And that's really the biggest thing. If we train and we educate and we are all on the same page, we could do a lot of things and we could do it a lot safer. By hindering that, I think we're making us more dangerous. That's just my opinion.
Something else that we haven't talked about that I think also plays into this is you hear comparisons. Well, we do it for hazmat. We do it for dive operations. You know, we have backup divers and backup entry crews. But and you can never say always and never say never. But on a majority, at least when I was a rescue diver and when I was on a hazmat team for 10 years, those incidents are not progressing at the same level that a building fire is progressing.
Right.
And so when we say we're going to have two divers standing by, a lot of times that's going in for recovery. Maybe it's a rescue, but that situation is not really getting worse to the extent that a structural fire is getting. So when you apply the time component, you know, the time that it takes to get two extra divers on the scene or two other guys suited up as a hazmat incident, you're not going to have as much change as conditions over that same period of time that you are waiting for those people on a structure fire. And we
Absolutely.
haven't talked about that a lot.
No, the time component, which OSHA is dealing with a lot when they're talking about these things, is IDLH environments, is a lot of them besides just the fires that we go on. And that's what we're concerned with.
Yeah.
But that's not completely what they're concerned with. And Eric Cambrian, I don't think anybody is advocating to get rid of 2 in. I mean, I'm not
No.
sure. I don't think so. So if that's your question, I think the 2 out is the delay of the time involved in getting the 2 out, I think would be the big takeaway in
Or
answer
the
to
delay in getting the 2 in, waiting for the 2 out.
Right. No one is advocating for 1 in. I don't believe.
No, not at all.
Okay. I don't want to speak for anybody, but yes.
I'm for 4 in.
Yeah. If we can have 2 in, 2 out, I want 4 in. I think that's a great way of stating it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it says, right? I mean,
I want you, real quick, before Sean, I'll let you rant real quick, but I want to say, everybody start getting your final thoughts in, because I'm going to ask you for your final thoughts that you want people to take away from this. Sean, go ahead with what you were saying while I got them people framing their mindsets.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just going to say, I mean, it's proven and backed by scientific studies that, you know, fire attack and search operation should happen as close to simultaneously as possible, right? And if you have 4 people on the scene, there it is right there. You're doing 2 things immediately, right? So
when you got to address ventilation in that also, we got to throw ventilation in there to a degree.
Yeah. And, you know, and if this is just me speaking about search here, but if you're on that search team and you're closing doors and you're search as you go, right? You're isolated from the fire. Open up that window, start ventilating that space. Now you're doing 3 different things at once, right? So we could be more effective by putting more hands to work as quickly as possible than waiting. Now we're doing ventilation of the structure, you know, 10, 12 minutes in when we could have done it at 4 minutes in, you know, so that makes a difference. 1, for our operations, and 2, for civilians.
Love it. So here's where I'll go. I'll go final thoughts, and to keep it arbitrary, I'll say first name, alphabetical, which unless somebody goes by their middle name like I do, I think Nick would be Nick would be first. Is Nick your first name?
It is.
All right, then you're first, and then it's Sean, and then it's Scott for the wrap up. But final thoughts, takeaways you want the audience to have.
Very simple. 2 in, 2 out is too slow. We can do better. We deserve better. Our civilians deserve better.
Well, that is simple. I like it. SEAN. Sean, is that your first name?
Sure is.
Okay, just making sure. Hey, I always have to ask.
Yeah, no, mine's pretty simple.
Actually, J. Scott Thompson. I just thought about it.
And somebody added that in there. I don't know who added that J in there, but thanks.
I just thought about it. I'm like, wait a second. All right, go ahead, Sean. I'll get to Scott Thompson in a minute.
Educate yourself on Maydays, right? And understand what is the reality, because I think a lot of times that is a false sense of security. Even in our trainings, they're not really geared towards what's actually happening. So train on it, educate yourself on it, and then you're going to realize that this is very, very time consuming, right? I think the last study was on average 12 firefighters, 21 minutes. So what does that tell you? Yeah. Simply put, ask questions, dig deep. Don't just believe shit because someone told you to believe it. Challenge it. Find out what it means for you and what it means for the fire service, and fight for what's right.
Love it. And I'll take it too. Scott, that's obviously not your first name.
No, James is my first name.
I did not. I'm like, wait a second. I know it's on the cover of my book, J. Scott
That's
Thompson.
okay. I'm going to say data matters. We got to remove the emotion-based opinion, which is crippling the fire service. We have to make risk avoidance and risk acceptance personal. And we have to consider when we talk about operational safety, fire victims are stakeholders in that conversation. And we need advocates to speak up for the people that fund us and support us, that if they didn't, we would not exist.
No, it's beautiful, and it ties right back into one of your original passions, which is the Colony Project and what they expect. I mean, it really does. It really does.
Just
Okay,
ask them. Just ask them.
just ask them
They'll
what they
tell you.
expect, and it's
They'll
crazy.
tell you.
They'll tell
Cody
you.
Trestrail did the same exercise. Just ask them. They're the ones who pay for our existence. If we ignore them, we're going to be in the same conversation with defund the police.
No, it's powerful. All right. It is a scrap. It is a mega scrap. So I still want to get to book or books that you think firefighters should read. But everybody, because there's 3 of you, I have to say you get one book. Like it could be your current passion, it could be the current thing you're super hyped about, or it could be your all-time favorite book of all time. But you get one, gun to your head, and I'll actually go in actual alphabetical order, and I'll start with J. Scott Thompson.
You've heard this a bunch of times. My all-time favorite, Deep Survival. Who lives, who dies, and why?
Gonzalez, yes?
Lawrence Gonzalez.
Yes, absolutely love it. In fact, it might be one of the first books recommended on the scrap. It was very early on. Sean, I'm just ignoring my own rules.
You're horrible on the alphabet.
I don't even understand the alphabet, how it works.
Oh, man. This isn't fire service related. I actually did this book on like an audiobook, and it was one of the most impactful books. Endure. If you haven't read it, man, the mindset, the discipline that goes into it. It's about a bow hunter who bow hunts elk, and he just wants to be like so good at it that he's almost obsessed. But he takes into what that all entails, right? Not just the love and the thrill for hunting, but the physical fitness aspect to be able to go out on those expeditions and get that. And he talks about how like bow hunting and elk is like actually being successful is very, very small chance, yet he goes out because of the way he's been disciplined and trained himself and does all these things. He does it consistently. And that's the takeaway for me. If you want to be consistent, you need to be disciplined.
What was the name of the book?
Endure.
Is that Haynes or who is it?
Yep.
Okay.
Haynes.
I wondered if it was Cameron, because a lot of people like, I don't know anything about him, but when you described it, I'm like, he must be talking about Cameron Haynes. Eddie J Man said, "Man, the Oklahoma alphabet is weird," with a lot of laughing emojis. So just bear with me, Nick.
Yeah, mine's it's kind of similar to Sean's. It's called The Comfort Crisis, and I got to give a big giant props to Greg Redmond for sending me that book. But it's by Michael Easter. It's called Comfort Crisis, and it attacks comfort, which is the enemy of growth, another Aaron Fields famous line, from a bunch of different aspects and perspectives. And it's just a really good book, and it's a really quick, easy, fun read. So highly recommend it.
Love it. And he actually gave me a copy of it when I saw him in St. Louis late last year, and I have not got to it yet because of my ridiculously long reading list. But
really good book. Highly recommend.
Okay, I'll move it up. On that recommendation. Okay, I don't know. I because I don't often get to have this eclectic of a group to have this conversation with. But there are the 5 questions for firefighters. But I don't want to turn it into the 15 questions for firefighters. So what we have to figure out how to do is answer the 5 questions for firefighters with 3 people. So I'll do my Okie alphabet, and we'll just go through them. And then you guys can vote on how you answer them. Okay. Can you guys do that?
I think so.
Probably not.
We'll see how it works out. I have no idea. I have no idea how this is going to play out. The first question is, what is the skill that's carried you through your fire service career? I'll start with Nick. I'll go reverse order what I just did. The skill that's carried you through your fire service career.
This is a new one. I don't think I've gotten this one yet. Skill that's gotten me through my fire service career. Listening, maybe.
That's fair. Sean?
Man, that's a tough one because there's a lot. I think if I had to pick one, it would be moral integrity. So there's a lot of things in the fire service that actions of other people around you that you're kind of tempted with. So staying true to your moral compass, I think, will get you a far way. It'll get you a lot of respect. So that would be it for me.
Chief, you actually had this one very recently, so it's almost unfair.
And I say curiosity, but I'm gonna throw something out there just for the heck of it. System thinking.
Ooh, I love it. I'm reading Dalio's Principles. I don't know if anybody's read it or not, and he is a systems-based person. And it's crazy when you said that. It really made me think of it instantly. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, how do you get a fire department system to deliver the same level of service between all the firehouses, all the battalions, and all the shifts? How do you get that consistent level of service?
No, and you've asked that question. Why should the level of service depend on who's on duty?
Right. So
no, it's beautiful, man. Beautiful. I'm not sure if I like it more than curiosity, but I like it. I do like. Okay.
New.
Question. No, I appreciate. I do appreciate. Number 2, it's Jobtown. It's time. And you can change your answers if you've had this one before. It's Jobtown. It's time. You're en route and responding. You got to think of the scene from Backdraft. He slaps that cassette into the deck, while McCaffrey's trying to jump on the rig. What song are you playing en route? I'll start with Chief Thompson. He had this one recently because he comes on the spot.
And I'm not going to give you the last one I gave. I'm going to be general and say anything from AC/DC, Back in Black, Hell's Bells. I'm just going to go with an AC/DC soundtrack because it's going to take us a while to get there.
Just a nice driving guitar riff.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. Nick?
I like that AC/DC answer. I'm going to say Rage Against the Machine, and I'm going to say Bulls on Parade.
Bulls on Parade. That made, and everybody, just so you're aware, there is a Spotify list that gets updated every scrap, and you can download it and you can enjoy it on your workout and imagine you're going to Jobtown. I think you've just added Bulls on Parade to it. There has been some other Rage, but I think that's the first one for Bulls, but I could be wrong. So they'll correct me if I am wrong. Sean?
Punk Time.
Motley Crue, for sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Got me there.
I think Kickstart My Heart.
Kickstart My Heart.
Yeah, buddy. Something about it, man. I don't know.
Dude, he said, Justin Price said Skater Boy. No, I'm the Avril fan. He's the Britney fan.
Yeah.
You got to get it right. Yeah, someone said Britney. Oh, Chris Thompson yelled Britney with 4 exclamation points.
Free Britney, baby.
Kickstart My Heart. There we go. AC/DC and Rage Against the Machine. Definitely 80s and then some 90s and some 80s. So I really love it. Let me get back to it. Thank you guys for really making me smile. Favorite fire service tradition? Chief, I'll start with you again because you just recently had it. You can revisit or you can go new.
Man, this is going to kick in some controversy, but man, hanging out in the bay, rather it's on the front of the apparatus or out in the, all the cancer guys are going to kick in, but that casual environment and the kitchen table is very, very valuable, but it's a step more casual than that, I will say. And so I'm going to say though that casual conversation in the bay, maybe while we're loading hose or checking out the rigs or doing whatever we do out there where we're sweating a little bit, we're working together and we're making it fun and enjoyable to do it.
I love it. I love it. Sean.
Oh, that's an easy one for me. Bumper coffee, man. That's just something about it, hanging on the bumper of the engine or ladder, wherever you happen to be, and just talking shop, drinking coffee. You got the whole pot right there. And that's it. Just getting to know each other on a different level.
Nick?
I'm going to say crew workouts and just a big what's up to Isaac and Riley. Yeah, for me right now, that's what I'm digging.
Just working out. Shared misery?
Yeah, shared sectionist. We're getting a little bit sexier every single day.
There is no easy
almost
way.
Imperceptible.
Almost what?
Almost imperceptible, but it's happening.
Okay. There is no good way to do a fire. So here's what I'm going to do. There is no Mount Rushmore. You get to make one bust. That's it. All three of you get to pick one bust to put on your pedestal of the fire service. This is an unfair question. I completely realize that. And I gave you no preparation, but I still like to hear your answers. You get to put one marble bust up of your epitome of the fire service. I will start in reverse of what I just did and go Nick.
Unfair, by the way.
I know.
I liked Sailor's answer for this, where that he wouldn't put people, he would put eras. But I want to be true to the question right here. And the first name that's really popping into my head, who's had just an enormous impact on my career, would probably be Chief Brush. Don't get a big head, Brush, but I'll put you on there right now.
He was born with a big head, but I love the man, and I can't argue with your answer whatsoever. Sean.
Oh man, he's gonna kill me for saying this, but I think I put my buddy Cody Trestrail up there, man. I think that guy all the way around is not only a solid fireman, but just a straight up good human being. So there's many qualities that he possesses that I think all of us should strive to have. So that would be mine. I know it's a little ass kissing, but I truly mean it. I've had the pleasure to be around him several times, and man, that guy is just everything that you would think. Family man, you name it. So
Brian Crush and the real deal, Cody Trestrail, without a doubt, man. That's strong. Scott, I put you. I'm sorry,
So
James Scott Thompson.
I just did a scrap and I gave you mine, but for this episode, I'm going to put Don Abbott up there. I don't think people realize with the Tactical Command Center and what he's did with Project Mayday, those are all self-motivation. And he's kind of been in the background of so many things. So I'm going to throw Don Abbott up there since he passed away somewhat recently, and it fits into the theme of what we're talking about tonight.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Just just put an exclamation point on this. For those that might not know, Don Abbott was part of this project before he passed too. So he was in the initial stages of this, but unfortunately, like everybody knows, he ended up passing. So his name's not on here, but he absolutely helped motivate and steer us in the right direction for this.
Dude, it's like max points. Oh, wait, even more max points. How do you top that? How do you top that? It brings us to the final question. Every one of you have had this question before multiple times, so you can just say it quickly and succinctly. VES or first in on the first line. Chief, go ahead.
I'm gonna add a third. I want to be the 2 out, please. I want to stand in the front yard. Take care of the guys going in. So that's my answer.
Perfect answer for the mega scrap.
That was beautiful, Chief. I mean, it's VES.
Sean?
All right. I second that, baby. VES all day long.
Chief Thompson got your back out there.
I got you covered, guys.
Hey, thank you so much for coming in. For writing the article, for doing the research, for being a part of everything you've been a part of, for pushing the fire service and making it better, man. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Chief Thompson. You called me like what is it? Not even 10 days ago and said, hey, we need to make this happen. I'm like, okay, let's make it happen. And you guys absolutely delivered. I think there's so much valuable information from this mega scrap for those who are willing to listen and then, most importantly, take action to try and impact the future of the fire service. So please, 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 if you haven't, go read the article, educate yourself, go make
a public comment.
Yes, go make your voice heard. We can impact the future of the American fire service. Absolutely.
Thanks for making this happen, Corley.
Brother, you guys made it happen. Honestly, between writing the article, all the research, everything that's gone on, I'm just a guy that sits behind a microphone and gets to talk.
You're the voice of the American Fire Service, brother. Thank you.
I get to talk to some cool cats. There is no doubt about it.
Thank you so much, Corley.
Real quick, housekeeping. I won't even go into if someone gets a hold of you. Yeah, I'll do it. Scott, if someone wants to get a hold of you, best way to do it.
Scott at fireserviceleadership.com.
Sean?
2 T's.
Duffy558@gmail.com.
Nick?
Yeah, Ledin. That's NLEDIN @hotmail.com. And also for anyone in the Wisconsin or Midwest area, Chief Chief Corley Moore is coming to Eau Claire for the Eau Claire Leadership Conference, October 12th and 13th, along with Chief Dennis Riley, Jared Sergi, and we got a doctor of sports psychology coming too that we're pretty stoked about. Sorry, I had to do that.
No, absolutely, because we'll be there. The Vigilantes will be out in force. We can have a vigilante meetup, and we can shout the creed and bother whatever establishment we're at with a very loud voicing of the creed. So it'll be a good time.
Let's do that.
Absolutely. There will be a scrap after party. I haven't even broached the subject with. I'm not putting you on the spot. They may or may not be in the scrap after party, but I'll send them a link. And that's where we hang out and we talk for 20 minutes, no more, because I do have to edit this and I have to publish it. And then I still have to go be on duty tomorrow. So all that being said, the 20 minutes is a hard cap. All of that being said, thank you all for tuning in tonight and sharing your Saturday evening when there's like playoff sports going on. There's College World Series of softball and all sorts of stuff going on, but you're here investing in making the fire service better and listening to people who've shared their passion. So thank you, audience. I cannot thank you enough for asking great questions and making a phenomenal mega scrap echo. I can't wait for the next one. Thank you to each and every one of you as guests. Go ahead and say whatever you'd like to say.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us
to the audience. I mean, yeah, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just to put you on the spot. All right. Remember, I hope the tone stays silent unless it is burning. Everybody, stay safe out there. Let me know, Sam.